Today we're going to do an activity that will allow us to practice working with our signed numbers. That's going to help us with our next type of factoring. Okay, so you might want to have your factor sheet handy as we walk through these. So the first question says, what two numbers multiply to 30 and add to 11? So this one's pretty straightforward. So let's first start talking about numbers that will multiply to give us 30. So if we look at our factor sheet, we would have 1 and 30. We would have 2 and 15. We would have 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Now, we also want the pair of numbers that will add together to give us 11. So 1 plus 30 is definitely not 11. 2 plus 15 is not 11. 3 plus 10 is not 11, but 5 plus 6 is. So our two numbers are 5 and 6. So question 2 says that we want two numbers that multiply to 60 and add to 17. Okay, so multiply to 60. Let's look at that first. We have 1 and 60, 2 and 30. We'd have 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, and I believe that is all of them. So now we also want the pair that's going to add together to give us 17. So 1 plus 60, definitely not. 2 plus 30, definitely not. 3 plus 20 is not 17. 4 plus 15 is not 17. 5 plus 12 is, though. 6 plus 10 is not. So what two numbers multiply to give us 60 and add to give us 17? That would be 5 and 12. So question 3, what two numbers multiply to 24 and add to negative 10? Notice this time we're throwing in some negatives there. So let's start with the 24. So we'd have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and that would be it. Now notice though that we need these to add together to give us negative 10, but they're multiplying together to give us a positive. Well, the only way they can multiply together to give us a positive is if they have the same signs. So that means that both of these numbers are going to have to be negative. So let's go through and see. 1 plus negative 24 is not negative 10. Negative 2 plus negative 12 is not negative 10. Negative 3 plus negative 8 is not negative 10, but negative 4 plus negative 6 is. So negative 4 and negative 6 will multiply together to give us 24 and add together to give us negative 10. So question 4, what two numbers multiply to 88 and add to negative 19? So let's start with multiplying. So we'd have 1 and 88. We'd have 2 and 44. We have 4 and 22. And then we also have 8 and 11. Okay, so now once again, we need to multiply to give us positive, but add together to give us a negative. Well, the only way that happens is if both your numbers are negative. So let's go through and make everything negative. And then we need to multiply together to give us 88 and add together to give us negative 19. Negative 1 plus negative 88, nope. Negative 2 plus negative 44 is not negative 19. Negative 4 plus negative 22, but negative 8 plus negative 11 is. So negative 8 and negative 11, if you multiply, will give you positive 88, and when you add, will give you negative 19. Question 5, what two numbers multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 3? So this time, notice they're multiplying together to give us a negative. So let's just start with our factors. So 40 would be 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, and 5, and 8. I believe that's it. Okay, but they have to add together to give us a negative as well. So if they're multiplying to give us a negative, that means our signs have to be different. So we want a negative 3. So we got to have different signs. So we're basically saying which pair can we subtract to get us 3? Well, 40 minus 1 is not 3. 20 minus 2 is not 3. 10 minus 4 is not 3. 8 minus 5 is 3. So we're going to use this. We want a negative though, so that means the bigger number has to be negative. So 5 times negative 8 will give us negative 40, and 5 plus negative 8 will give us negative 3. Okay, so then our last question, what two numbers multiply to negative 12 and add to negative 4? So let's start with the 12. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, that's it. Okay, now we need to add together to give us a negative. So if we're multiplying to get a negative, that means we have different signs. So one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So that means we're basically subtracting and trying to get 4. So 12 minus 1, not 4. 6 minus 2, that could work. 3 minus 4 or 4 minus 3, either way is not 4. So we definitely want our 2 and 6. We want a negative 4, so we want our bigger number to be negative. So 2 times negative 6 will give us negative 12, and 2 plus negative 6 will give us negative 4.